Welcome to another edition of Tech Closeup. Hi, I'm Mark Albertson, and as always, we want to bring you up close to the people, to the issues, to the technologies that make this great Silicon Valley tick. And frankly, there's no better place to get that close to the Bay Area's technologies than right here, our new home at San Jose's Tech Museum of Innovation. This month, we'll talk with Julian Chang, a leading telecommunications expert, about the future of broadband and how wireless technology is transforming everything from cell phones to laptops. We'll take a closer look at the growing trend of social networking on the web and how one company has developed an unusual technology to get you linked in. And Christina King shows how employees at a Bay Area company are building a lot more than just technology products. You know, a lot of us use the web to pay bills, to book vacations, or just to check the weather before next week's trip. But there's a growing community of users who access newly developed web tools to enlarge their circle of friends or even find new employees. It kind of adds a new twist to the term social networking. Well, to learn more about this concept of getting connected online, we dropped in on a young Bay Area company called LinkedIn.
They say to find the right job, it's not just what you know, but who you know.
Most of us know several hundred people who we'd be willing to call upon, but those several hundred people know thousands of people, and those thousands of people know even thousands more. So every individual who you know is in fact a gateway to the person who you actually need to reach.
Meet Alan Blue, product manager at Palo Alto's LinkedIn. It's sort of the world's water cooler, where recruiters, hiring managers, and job hunters meet, trade referral names, and network for leads. It's a website that boasts over 2.5 million users around the world.
Every user who joins LinkedIn is encouraged to invite those people who they know and trust already, business connections, maybe connections from school, friends, colleagues, in order to build up the network which surrounds them.
LinkedIn is the Match.com for human resources. It's a sophisticated search engine that connects job seekers and hiring managers through an online referral network.
Let's see, in this example, the customer of this VP sales is connected to a sales rep who might be a potential person he may want to hire, because if he's selling to him as well, that'll be a great thing. Or a link to another potential customer for the sale. So it's used for both business and career purposes. It's not an employment agency, but a lot of our users are getting jobs through LinkedIn because, they're found on LinkedIn. That happens quite a bit.
That's sort of what happened to Margarita QE, a prominent Bay Area venture capitalist. Like everyone else on LinkedIn, she got a friend's invitation to join.
And what I noticed is that there weren't that many women, and it was, again, the usual crowd. So one of the first things I did was I invited every single female VC that I knew to get on LinkedIn. So while I was reasonably well networked in the Bay Area, certainly among Silicon Valley technology type people, it gave me access to a whole new level of network on the East Coast and in New York that I don't think I would have found otherwise if it wasn't for a tool like LinkedIn.
Results like that demand some software enterprise, as in Jean-Luc. No, not from Star Trek, but this Jean-Luc Vaillant is like LinkedIn's Captain Picard. It's not easy to monitor a network for networkers.
Part of it is, how do you keep a 24/7 reliable service? So I'm probably like the most worried of the bunch. But yes, definitely we have a feeling that we are keep changing something.
Behind the change, a classic case of startup humor, Silicon Valley style, as in conference rooms named after board games.
We work hard and we kind of live here in this building in some ways. So this is one of the ways that we lighten our environment. We think it's great to have conference rooms which are named after board games.
I couldn't help but resist. Who has not played Candyland? I mean, come on. I mean, whose idea was this?
I will give credit to our chief of staff, who was the one who actually picked the 7 games that appear here.
The fun and games drive creative spirit, but LinkedIn's not the first online social network. Unlike many others, though, it's not for dating or to make friends. It only links job hunters and recruiters, or helps locate experts for professional insight.
So in this case, I could click through to this person and read through their profile and say, this person looks like an expert on VoIP who I could possibly communicate with.
You don't need to spend as much money going through all these different job boards. You basically are able to leverage your own employee base to get referrals.
You know, we're still doing seminars in the Valley about how to network face-to-face. So I think there's still a gap, but I think that if you get on the system and you adopt those tools, you can close that gap for you personally.
Some might call LinkedIn just a new twist to an old network, but most of LinkedIn's users are in Europe and Asia. And when it comes to online job hunting, LinkedIn's a very small world.
The existing relationships already exist in the real world. But what a lot of people don't realize how small this world really is by being able to see that this person that you didn't know you had a connection to, you in fact are just 3 degrees away.
You know, the internet is burning with lots of choices that you probably have to confront every day. Landline versus satellite, wired versus wireless, the cell versus the internet. Just making a phone call leads to a dizzying array of choices. So, with all of the telecom mergers going on, we thought this would be a good time to try to figure out what's going on. So we sat down with Julian Chang, a leading broadband expert who shed some light on what's really going on in this rapidly growing industry. They used to call this a wired world. Well, now you got to wonder, is it a wireless world? Are we a broadband world? Communications is going where no one ever thought we would ever go. Well, somebody who really could put his eyes and ears on where we actually are going is Julian Chang, the former Vice President of Legislative Affairs for AT&T. You're now a private consultant. You're also with us right here on Tech Closeup. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
We used to call it a wired world, and now I'm not so sure that that's the case anymore.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the communications revolution has gotten into the wireless segment, and not just wireless in terms of a cell phone or anything like that, but broadband wireless. And the key word really is to think about convergence. A wired world tends to connote that you've got to have some sort of physical connection in order to get your information or to be able to be heard. A wireless world connotes mobility, the ability to talk when you want, receive messages when you want, send messages when you want. And that is the environment in which we are moving into. We're not fully there yet, but we are moving there.
The acronym that used to be next to your name was AT&T.
That's right.
Which at one time was kind of what a high school history teacher of mine once said was a benevolent monopoly. Well, we don't have that anymore, but with the merger with SBC or with MCI getting gobbled up, with Sprint buying this and that, is deregulation going to take us right back to where we used to be?
No, not at all. I don't think so. Because the new companies have a lot of competition for these bundles of converged services. There are multiple providers of mobile phone service, multiple providers of telephone long distance, and local. You can get it voice over IP through an internet protocol. You could do it through the traditional landlines, if you want it. And then all of these companies also work with the cable companies in the same marketplace and competing for your same communications dollars. And then there's the satellite companies also who want that. And don't forget, power companies are now going to be coming in with broadband. So for your consumer dollar to be spent, there are a lot of different industries, let alone companies, who want that dollar. And it's not like the old choice of, what color do you want your phone to be? I hope it's black and I hope it's rotary, because those days are long, long gone.
What was it they used to say about the Model T? You can have any color car as long as it's black.
Exactly.
But speaking about voice over the internet and about broadband, since you are associated with the Legislative Affairs, what is the scuttlebutt? What's the risk that the FCC, that the government, is going to really clamp down with restrictions and regulations on all these new kinds of communications?
Well, I think that the industry's hope, and probably the better policy for America, is that the FCC continue to look at the internet and IP services as information services and not as telecommunication services. And the information services have gotten so sophisticated because of consumer demand, Mark, that what we have is, in the instance of voice over IP, a product that some people say looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, walks like a duck. I maintain it because it's an application. This is a hologram duck. This is a duck that can do somersaults by clicking through your mouse. It can do things that a live duck could never do. But yes, the consumer wants it to have the reliability, they want it to have the real-time interaction of a conversation, voice conversation, and that's why the technology has evolved to meet the consumer demands. But it is not, very much not the same service as was provided over the traditional copper line on wires.
You raise an interesting point. The technology is meeting consumer demands. I'm beginning to wonder, isn't it maybe the other way around? I mean, for instance, you have your cell phone with you here. There is so much you can do with your cell phone. Did the consumer want all of these things, or did the industry think that we would enjoy it?
I think that there's a little bit of both. I think that when cell phones or mobile phones became more and more prevalent in our society, they had a transformative effect. To be able to talk when you want, wherever you go, and not have to run to a payphone, for example, when you had an idea in business and call back to your office. Now you can continue driving and you can call your office, or you can take a conference call at home, or you can take a conference call from your child's preschool if you're there volunteering. You don't have to give up one thing necessarily and be tied to this machine called the telephone. And so what happened is the convergence that consumers are expecting now was really driven by a change in our lifestyle, as it were, to be able to want communications to reach us where we are, instead of us having to bend to the communications technology or model.
Yeah. But now, you talk about convergence, and that's a word that we hear a lot about.
Yes.
Let's define it. What do we actually mean by convergence?
Convergence to me is data and voice and video and internet broadband all coming together. And convergence is made possible through the IP protocol. When everything is reduced to bits and bytes and ones and zeros and packets, it doesn't matter whether or not those packets carry voice, carry video, carry data. They're all bytes. It's like the network is agnostic as to what those packets do. And that's why we are able now to have on one device our schedules. I can even take a camera of you and send it around the world on the internet. You know?
Don't do that today.
But, you know, or I can make a call, I can do anything. And that's because everything that I do on this phone is translated into ones and zeros.
But we usually talk about the size of the pipe through which the data is traveling. If everything is reduced to ones and zeros and bits and bytes, do we have pipes big enough to handle it?
Yes, we do, because glass fiber, once you put glass fiber in the ground, does not need to be upgraded. It's there if you have good quality glass in the first place. What changes is the electronics on either end, multiplexers, the ability to pulse, different colors of light, and different colors go better than with others is very interesting. My engineers tell me
Sounds like
that.
a soda commercial.
It does. But we have learned that by pulsing and by using different color of lights, we don't need to change out the fiber, the glass fiber. It stays the same. All that changes are the electronics on either end. And capacity is there, and if we need more capacity, we can actually add more capacity. But the current worldwide capacity, especially in the US, is sufficient for what we need right now.
Does wireless ease the burden on this pipe, if you will?
Well, no, because the wireless signal does need to hit the backbone. after I make a call to you using my handheld, it will get translated into a packetized stream that will go over the backbone, and who knows where those packets go, to come back to a convergent point, which is then sent wirelessly to your handset, for example. So the wireless component is only at the user end. On the backbone end, it's all wired still.
If I remember right, now I'm going to use high definition television as an example.
All right.
If I remember right, in Japan, when HD TV first came on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they forced everybody to buy new TV sets, that the whole industry there had to change. And here, we've eased it in very slowly. Are we going to do the same thing with convergence or force everybody to change?
The American model is for us to choose to adopt technology, and we are not forcing any sort of convergence. In the large enterprise market, for example, with the government, the military, multinational companies, they are all choosing to instead maintain a data and a voice network to converge into one IP network. And there's multiple providers worldwide who can provide that sort of service for them. Consumers also do not have to have a cell phone that takes pictures, that has capability to schedule. You can have the cheapest cell phone available to you if that's all you need, and if you don't want to mess with all the text messaging. And so you have everything from the very simple to the very complex, and it's all a matter of choice. And what our companies are doing they're evolving to meet that need, and the government needs to let business have a return on their investment and execute against their business plans.
When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time at the New York World's Fair, 1964 and 65, and one of the places that really excited me was the telephone and the AT&T exhibit, in which they were promoting video telephones. And we thought it was right around the corner. And yet it's just slowly beginning to happen now. Are there risks now of great expectations that are going to disappoint people?
I think that the consumer, the Dick Tracy thing was what I was really looking for, so you could really see who you're talking to on your wrist. I think that there's a lot of reasons why video telephones never took off, one of which was probably people realizing I don't look good all the time.
So that was consumer driven then.
Yes. I would rather sometimes just talk to you instead of have you see me. But the consumer expectations are in part being defined now as new technology is coming on. You're absolutely right in that demand is being created. But at the same time, consumers also vote and say, we don't want this. Well, HDTV, going back to that, the price point is too high right now, and so people are voting not to go with HDTV. Now, the early adopters have gone with HDTV, and a lot of my friends say once you go, you're never going to come back. But for a mass market, a lot of ubiquitous use, it's not there yet.
I remember, we've all watched Star Trek, and the only place we had cell phones at that time was when Captain Kirk was calling up to the Enterprise, where he would flip his phone out.
Right.
And now we actually have everything that they projected in science fiction. You're somewhat of a visionary here. Can you project the next 20 or 30 years? What's the world going to be, the wireless world going to look like?
Well, I think thanks for the compliment, but I don't know. I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
I think that the wireless world is really going to be communications on demand. Actually, we're moving into an on-demand world. And communications I define very broadly. How you get your news, how you get your video, how you get voice conversations with your family, your business workers, or with strangers. All of that informational stream coming into you is up to you to control. And in the developing countries that we see, The Economist this month has a really excellent article that says the transformative technology is not the personal computer, but mobile telephones. So the fishermen coming off of the sea can call ahead to the local market stalls, who hopefully all have cell phones, and say, how much are you going to pay me for today's catch? And shop his or her catch to the right place for outlet for his goods. And that's what's going to create wealth, and that's what's going to create business opportunities. And in the developed world where we are, I think that the world will become smaller and people will understand each other better because they can communicate with each other better. At least that's my hope.
Is Alexander Graham Bell rolling over in his grave, or is he very happy what's happened?
I think he's very happy what happened. I think he's very proud that his invention is now a global invention. It's not a Canadian invention. It's not an American convention. It's everywhere.
Okay. And I'm sure that as all this technology goes everywhere, you'll be there also to give us some insight.
I'll be there, absolutely.
Okay. This is Julian Chang. You are the former Vice President of Legislative Affairs for AT&T, a private consultant, and a very proud guest here on Tech Closeup. Here at Tech Closeup, we introduce you to CEOs and company executives who make positive contributions to the local community. But sometimes it's easy to forget that groups of employees also take time off from their jobs to volunteer to the Silicon Valley as well. And recently, we found one group that took time off from building technology products to building homes instead. Here's Christina King.
Slicing wood and smoothing out drywall, not their typical day at the office.
Normally, I would be sitting at my computer working on marketing programs, trying to find out how we can help our clients a little bit more. So this is pretty different from your typical day at the office, but it's great that our company allows us to come out here and do this for the environment and for the community.
Kelly Stites says she and her other co-workers at this construction site are thrilled to leave their desks behind for a day. They're nailing down siding instead of drumming up business at their employer, LoopNet, the nation's #1 online commercial real estate listing service. Here in Daly City in San Mateo County, the LoopNet crew is helping to build 7 townhouses for Habitat for Humanity.
Some people are putting up drywall, some people are putting in insulation. We got people right next to me pounding nails, putting up the siding on the houses.
These townhomes will be sold to low-income families at no profit and financed with zero-interest mortgages. The families, in turn, must work 500 hours on site, something Habitat calls sweat equity.
We like to think that we're changing lives and building communities, and we've watched it work. We have 82 homes that are already built. The 7 that you see being built here today, 4 others being built in another part of Daly City, and families whose lives are being improved all over the place, so it's wonderful.
On this day, LoopNet has committed about 17 employees from its San Francisco office to being here for the whole day, which is quite a commitment, say some of the employees.
But LoopNet's CEO says the small inconvenience is worth it.
It definitely detracts a little bit from the day-to-day business. We feel like everybody else at the office was happy to step up and pick up the slack, and it's an easy decision to make to try to give something back.
And in giving back, their teamwork shows.
We have a team leader who told us to do the installation, and they needed someone smaller to get up in this space. So I kind of got dragged away from everyone else to get in here. But it's pretty fun. It's a little challenging.
The challenge brings together a unique pair. Just like LoopNet builds opportunities to expand commercial real estate transactions, Peninsula Habitat for Humanity builds families and communities by building houses. And volunteers like LoopNet's are crucial.
They're just angels that come to us. It's really wonderful. I know they've worked with our organization and they're showing their support. They're like ants in an ant farm here today, walking all over the site and doing all kinds of work. It's really wonderful to see, and we're so appreciative of their support, in particular because they are a real estate organization and we are about homes and land and real estate. So I really like to see the tie from the community supporting us in a field that's so connected to what we're doing.
It's very hard work. You really appreciate how much effort goes into building a house after you've spent just 8 hours out here.
But the employees wouldn't be out here if it weren't for one Bay Area foundation that encouraged LoopNet and others to get involved.
Entrepreneurs Foundation works with high-growth entrepreneurial companies to help them develop their community involvement and philanthropy. It's just a wonderful thing, and we hope to see it grow in our other companies as well.
Aside from the physical labor, LoopNet employees raised more than $4,000 to donate to Peninsula Habitat. It's one tech company's recognition that volunteerism is a trend that sells. Christina King for Tech Closeup.
Okay, chew on this. It's time to chew on a tech bite. This is that moment in our show when we explain some common science or technology, and of course there's no better way to get an explanation than to come here to San Jose's Tech Museum of Innovation, and we're joined of course by our favorite science explainer. This is Tony Santos. How you doing, Tony?
Thanks for
having
me.
This is the world for a reason. Explain what's going on.
Exactly. We're in the Net Planet Gallery right now. This is all about the internet and getting kids to dream up the next internet innovation, taking different technologies that exist now, innovating however you will to take it to the next level. This is the worldwide webcam globe. We have live webcams around the globe. We've tapped into those that already existed. Webcams are becoming ubiquitous. You touch any hotspot around the globe, here's Times Square. We're live in Times Square. Really just to get people thinking about just sort of unique ways to use the internet. Where are we? We're in Russia.
Now you didn't have to fly there to put a camera there.
We didn't. You just a touch of the globe.
These webcams are all over the place now.
They are. It's blowing up. With convergence of multimedia and the web and TV, the internet especially is affecting how we live, how we work, how we communicate with our friends. And so we really want to encapsulate that here at the Tech Museum. And again, present these really sort of abstract technologies. We have an internet arm wrestle over on the other side. It uses haptic technology, which is a technology that's used for virtual surgeries. You exert force on this end, it digitizes it, it puts it out on the other end. We take that sort of funny idea that most people don't know about. We present it in a virtual arm wrestle over the internet, and we think it helps people wrap their heads around it.
So people around the world can be connected with this museum virtually through just the touch of a finger.
Absolutely. If you have a friend in France, they could actually get on their cell phone. They could actually go into...
This is really quite amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, thanks for joining us with another explanation. Now, if you've got some science or technology you'd like explained, well, why don't you ask us at Tech Bites. You'll find a link to Tech Bites on our website at www.techcloseup.com. Thanks to a great network of cable community access stations, Tech Closeup's now seen throughout much of the Bay Area, and we're adding more stations all the time. We've even got lots of feedback, but of course we could use a little bit more. So we'd like to hear from you. Send us your suggestions and your story ideas via our website at techcloseup.com. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Levinson. And of course, remember, if you want to stay close to the technology here in the Bay Area and in this great Silicon Valley, well then join us next time for another edition of Tech Closeup.